on Monday night, I was kind of having a rough night. I had been trying to scheme my way into the Intuit Dome, which is very close to my house. It's dangerous. I could walk there. They were doing the first Monday Night Raw on Netflix, and I was trying to repeat some of the same magic that I used to help me get into the Kia Forum, which is like half a block away from the Intuit Dome, to get into the pop out. Put that out on the internet, and it turns out that I knew somebody who worked along with Kindred's people, so I was able to get in based on that. So I tried to put it out on the internet to see if I had ends. Didn't have ends. I hit up a wrestler who I know who told me he didn't have ends. So I was watching it from my home on Monday. Happy to be able to watch the show. I felt like it was a very good show, but also feeling, I guess, a complicated cocktail of emotions based on inability to have enough money to go, right? And in professional jealousy that I wasn't famous enough to be there, because they kept showing all the famous people there too, and I knew about a fifth of those people. Fuck. So I wasn't having the greatest time after watching the show and enjoying the show. I was furiously and sadly cooking some chicken. I had the show on my iPad, and then midway through the show, you hear this very familiar guitar riff. And I'm thinking, God damn it, I don't know if I can take this. Right when I felt like it couldn't get worse, you hear this very familiar guitar riff, and then the saggy, limpy, bleached blonde bag of bones sort of waddles out there and starts his bullshits. And right when I'm about to fucking start rage crying in this chicken I'm cooking, I was dangerously close to it. Then I heard the sound of the boo birds. I heard the sound of the boo birds. The boo birds started flying. And I was like, oh, maybe this is just like an edgy pocket of fans who are booing, and then it's going to die down, and then the nostalgia is going to take hold and it'll get drowned out. But no, the boos got louder. And then he started shilling for his shitty racism beer. And then the boos got even louder. And you can hear that the WWE was trying to tweak the crowd audio and turn it down so that it could be like, well, are they booing? But the boos were so loud that the volume trickery didn't work. And I was really, I managed to feel a little happiness in that moment, because fuck that guy. Oh, and there's a lot of people who I've seen on the internet who don't understand why he was getting booed. And I'm a very helpful friendly neighborhood indie rapper. So I'm here to help. I'm going to help explain to those who are confused why it is that Hulk Hogan got booed. Now, I'll say the reason that I don't like this guy, and I would imagine this to be the most important reason that he was booed out of that building on Monday, is because of his racism, which was exposed by leaked audio some years ago. And I would invite those who have never heard what he said, I'm going to do you the service of playing it for you right now. This is what it was that Hulk Hogan said after he had had sex with his friend's wife, and the friend had surveilled it and unbeknownst to him.
She jump sides on me because I shelled out $2-3 million for her music, and I've been trying to help her. I've done everything fucking with him day and night on the radio like a jackass, and he's working with me to make it work. Because I think you really shouldn't call every day and do the shit I do. The South Beach record, this black billionaire guy, basically did more for her a year than anybody's done. Okay, he had one song after 10 months this year, went back up and back and back still and momentum, but I try to be the realist, and this is your option. You got a better option. Said you can get signed with fucking. He's gonna put $500 million behind you go, but right now there's nothing else. We're doing the best we can here. So it gets to the point where I really broke this fucking the black guy's son. racist to a point.
I'm a racist to a point. Matter of fact, let me move even my webcam out of the way for a moment here so you can make sure you see what's being said here. Okay. I'm not a double standard type of guy. I'm a racist to a point, you know, fucking niggers.
We all are that way.
We all are that way.
Yeah, but when it comes to white people, you can't say. I don't give a fuck. She's dirty. I don't care. Fucking hate football. Fucking really love basketball player. They have to. If we're gonna fuck with niggers, let's get a rich one.
If we're gonna fuck with niggers, let's get a rich one. That was what he said. He has since gone on to, in his words, apologize. And in his apology, he puts it all down to, I used some bad words, is what he says. He says, I used some bad words. Hulk Hogan apologizes for unacceptable racist rant as he is scrubbed from WWE Hall of Fame. 8 years ago, I used offensive language during a conversation. Offensive language. It was unacceptable for me to have used that offensive language. There's no excuse for it, and I apologize for having done it. That is not who I am. I believe very strongly that every person in the world is important and should not be treated differently based on race, gender, orientation, religious beliefs, or otherwise. I am disappointed with myself that I used language that is offensive and inconsistent with my own beliefs. How interesting. The language. So he has apologized for using the language, and he says it's inconsistent with his beliefs. So what exactly are his beliefs then? Because it certainly sounded like he believed what he was saying then, and you would think that a person in a private conversation is probably actually saying what aligns with their beliefs more than what they say when they're doing a public relations statement. So this isn't the sort of thing where you just get to say, I said the wrong words. Because it's not just the words, it's the beliefs, it's the attitudes underneath. You're saying now that you believe very strongly that every person is important. Well, okay, so then how did you go from believing that everyone's racist to a point, fucking niggers, you know, and if you're gonna fuck with a nigger, fuck with a rich one? That doesn't sound like you believe that people should be treated fairly at all. It sounds like you believe black people like me, right? Like me, are niggers. So you just apologizing for your language doesn't deal with any of the underlying beliefs presented in what the fuck you said. And we are past the point. I am past the point, and I believe that I know if I can correctly guess how a lot of people who look like me feel, apologizing about the language isn't quite gonna cut it. For a person to be redeemed after saying something like that, you have to really do some real work. You have to really take accountability for your fucked up beliefs. And you have to demonstrate somehow that there's been some character growth. And actually saying that you just apologized for the language is the opposite of character growth. It's not taking any accountability for the shit that you actually thought and said. So now when you say that doesn't align with my beliefs, what the fuck incentive or reason does anybody have to believe you? Ever. And it's like the people who forget why he was booed. It's like either you forgot about this, which is probably easy if you're not black, right? If you're a wrestling fan and there's so much suspension of disbelief involved in being a wrestling fan, believe me, we'll get to some of that too. But if you're not black, it's probably easy for you to forget this happened. And if you think it's okay, if you think we've moved past it, then you clearly haven't talked to anybody black about how they feel about it, which I believe is important in this instance. It sort of reminds me of, I remember one time I was at a comedy club and Louis C.K. dropped in. This was before all of his controversy and his dirty little penis behavior became public. And I was a fan of him at the time, so I was excited to see him. And he was doing some material. I don't know how much of it he was trying out, but he had some joke in it where the punchline of it was him saying nigger. And aside from just the offense of it, just the offense of using a slur, I had this moment where I realized why that's so fucking unfair is because, like, I believe I may have been, if not the only black person in that room, one of a few. And the difference between somebody who's black hearing that joke and somebody who's not black hearing that joke is that when you hear that word and you're black, you have to have a negotiation in yourself about how you feel about hearing that word in a way that somebody who's not black doesn't have to deal with. Like it's putting an obstacle for only the black people in the room to be able to enjoy the joke. And I'm not sure if people who think that it's all about free speech and it's all about being able to say whatever you want think about it that way. That you are literally isolating and bringing up a thing that's so sensitive to a very specific group of people. And you're not having a conversation with them about it. You're not asking them how they feel about it. You're not processing anything with them. You're just saying the transgressive thing because you think it's funny to say. In this particular instance with this wrestler, like I said, there's a lot of suspension of disbelief involved in wrestling. Like I said, we'll cover some of that later. But in this specific instance, the black wrestling fans, when they see Hulk Hogan now, knowing that he has not really actually addressed any of this, non-black fans have this very easy road to not thinking about that, because when he rips his shirt, they have the nostalgia. When they hear the guitar riff, their road to the nostalgia is easy. My road to the nostalgia is fucked now, because I have to self-deny my own pain to access the nostalgia now. And WWE at different points has gambled on how much of that is actually a problem. And I hope that they learned on Monday that it's a fucking big deal. It is not some shit to be swept under the rug. They just entered a new business relationship with him and his shitty piss beer. So, you know, they fucking stepped in it. And I don't quite know how they address it, but they fucking stepped in it. And so again, I think the racism is the main reason he got booed. But if the racism isn't enough for you, how about he's a known ridiculous liar? Like a ridiculous liar. Like a lot, like there's liars and then there's fucking Hulk Hogan. He once said he wrestled 400 days in a year. He said this. He said this on multiple occasions, that there was a year where he wrestled 400 days in 1 year, and he was saying that he could count it to 400 because he had been flying back and forth to Japan, and then the date line starts over. So somehow he counted and got to 400. There's this great story that he tells about being at Wembley Stadium in SummerSlam 1992, where there was a Make-A-Wish kid that he had gotten a front row seat to see the event. And that when he was out there wrestling, he looked for the kid in the seat and the kid wasn't there. And apparently because during the event, the kid had died. And that would be a really sad story. Except that SummerSlam 1992, Hulk Hogan was not in the UK. He did not wrestle at that event. He was not even working for the WWF when that happened. He has said that Elvis Presley used to come see him. Elvis Presley was a big fan of him when he used to work in Memphis. Now, Hulk Hogan did work in Memphis before he got very famous working for the WWF. He started working for Memphis in 1979. Elvis Presley died in 1977. He has said that when he took the Undertaker's move, the Tombstone, which is a reverse pile driver, he said that Undertaker broke his neck. I'm going to show you a photo now of the moment of impact in this reverse pile driver. This is the moment of impact. At this point, Undertaker would go flat because the moment of impact is actually Undertaker's knees hitting the mat and not the head. That's because Undertaker is a safe professional wrestler and would not drive a man's head into the mat, especially not the biggest money-making star in the company. Hulk Hogan said this impact that we're looking at, where Hulk Hogan's head is clearly 6 inches off of the ground, broke his neck. And if the lies aren't enough, the long history of backstage politics could maybe be the deal. There's a wrestler named Jesse the Body Ventura who was going to start a union for wrestlers in the 80s. One of the most fucked up things about being a professional wrestler is that you can't work for whatever company you want to work for. They tell you where to be and when to be there. But you are listed federally as an independent contractor, which means you're not protected as an employee. Jesse the Body Ventura was trying to start a union to make sure that wrestlers were treated fairly. Hulk Hogan heard about that and went and snitched to Vince McMahon. Ultimately, I believe getting Jesse the Body Ventura fired, but definitely quashing any energy around trying to start a union. This guy, oh my God, this guy fucking Hulk Hogan. So when he turned heel, was it 96 or 97? He turned heel. There was a year-long story where Sting, who was previously the biggest babyface in WCW, behind Hulk, but before Hulk got there, Sting was the biggest babyface in WCW. They did this really long, intricate story where Sting, who used to look like this is what Sting looked like when Hogan got there. Hogan turns into a bad guy, which sort of starts making this whole sort of good guy uncool. And they do this intricate story where Sting's friends don't trust him anymore. The NWO, which is Hogan's bad guy group, makes a fake Sting, which confuses matters even more because Sting's friends really think that Sting is out there doing bullshit, but then it's exposed to be a fake Sting. So Sting, feeling like he's not trusted by any of his friends, and this is over the course of a year, Sting goes away. He starts making appearances where he's just like way up in the stands or up in the rafters. And over the course of a year, Sting that used to look like this starts looking like this, right? And the fans really get behind him. It's this really cool way to evolve this character now that the winds have changed from regular good guy, bad guy into more edgy characters. And they do the perfect build-up for there to be a match with Sting and Hogan where Sting wins and gets the title. Now, the way that this match was set up to be done, the NWO, which is Hogan's group, had their own referee in their pocket, this guy named Nick Patrick. So what the story was supposed to be was that they have a match. Hogan gets Sting down. Nick Patrick, the referee, does a fast count. 1, 2, 3, real fast. So it's obvious cheating, right? And then the newly debuting from the WWF, Bret Hart, appears. And for some reason, he has the authority to get them to restart the match. So everybody's happy, and then Sting eventually ends up winning. This was supposed to be obvious cheating, which would make it look like Hogan cheated so that Sting would still have his heat and be able to triumph in the end. Before the match, Hogan tells the referee, count nice and slow. So instead of the quick, fast cheating count, it's an actual count. So visually, and for all the fans, it looks like Hogan legitimately won. So then it makes Bret Hart look like an asshole for trying to restart the match, and Sting look like a loser for eventually winning, but then it's all fucked up because it looked like he legitimately lost. This is Hulk Hogan, and wrestling fans know this type of shit about him. And if the backstage politics ain't enough for you, there's the real life politics of Hulk Hogan, who on Monday, he comes out and he's saying that WWE's best partner ever is Netflix, and he rips his shirt off, and under his shirt, he's got a Netflix shirt on. He did this very recently, and it might still live in people's minds. He did this at the Republican National Convention, ripping his shirt off and revealing a Trump shirt underneath. Now, again, there's a lot of Republicans in wrestling, and fans like me, there's a lot of suspension of disbelief that goes into enjoying the product. Hogan has responded to getting booed and is saying something like, "Oh, I represent stuff these California people don't like." He's trying to make it about the politics, but it's not about the politics. The Undertaker, who we showed a second ago, is a Trump supporter. He had Trump on his podcast. The Undertaker made an appearance at this event and got cheered wildly. Triple H, I'm not exactly sure what his politics are, but he was recently seen at Mar-a-Lago partying with Trump. He was shown on Monday. He's the leader of the creative for WWE right now and is generally a beloved figure. I think there's a certain amount of suspension of disbelief that a lot of fans take into wrestling, because a lot of times, or most of the time, people sort of keep their politics out of it. But there's a lot of bullshit to be dealt with in it. But I do think that if any of those people, I think if Triple H had a tape come out where he was calling people niggers, then he wouldn't be able to be in the position he's in. I think Undertaker is currently flirting with fucking up his legacy by being too political outside of wrestling right now. But I can tell you 100%, if there was a tape of him calling black people fucking niggers, then he would not be cheered the way he is today. I think Hogan, in all of his transgressions, has crossed a fucking line. And can he be redeemed? Yes, I do think it's possible. I don't think that the shit that he has said has to be held over him forever, but I think he has to do real work. And I don't think he's willing to do it. Just like he wouldn't take accountability in his apology. He's not taking accountability for why he's being booed now. And as long as that's his attitude, then he's going to be held in the same contempt. He hasn't done anything substantial to change it. Again, it's not about a bad word. It's about a dehumanizing attitude. And it's about the obstacles that you now put in front of black fans to be able to enjoy you. I was a little kid. I used to fucking love Hulk Hogan. I remember wanting Hulk Hogan to be Ultimate Warrior when they had their clash at WrestleMania 6, I believe, when he was supposed to pass the torch. I wanted Hogan to win. I was a big fan of Hulk Hogan. I bought into his character, to train and say your prayers and take your vitamins. And it was legitimately painful to hear him say those words about everybody being a little racist, about fucking niggers, about if you're going to fuck with niggers, get a rich one. And I don't think he's done enough to address it. I don't think he's done anything to address it. I think he's still trying to coast on the nostalgia. And he's used to being able to do whatever the hell he wants. And so I'm happy. I am happy when he gets booed, because it's every time, and it's happened before. I don't think ever as vociferously as Monday, but it's happened before. Every time it's an opportunity for him to learn something, and he keeps fucking refusing to learn. I think for a lot of folks, it's easy when he tears the shirt. Like I said, it's an easy road to nostalgia. You know, but when I see him tear his shirt, he just looks like a racist with a torn up shirt on. And he sounds like, he sounds and looks like a lot of other people I don't really want to fucking hear from. Nostalgia's not going to work for me, brother. Like and subscribe, homie, friend. It's free. Stop playing.